Welcome to the Photoshop tutorials. Now in this Photoshop lessons, this project, it's not so much a project as a showing you all the tools. There's a lot of tools in Photoshop, lots of them that you won't use rarely, but it's good to know about. So this little course that I'm doing here is going to cover lots of the main tools, in fact most of everything, with handy little tips and tricks along the way. So what we're going to do is create a new document. So go to File and New. And we've done this before if you looked at the other video. Now we're going to set in a size. Now the size at the moment, you can see the formats there are different size. I'm going to go flick to pixels and just make this an 800 by 800. Actually a little bit less because of the YouTube size. So I make that 500. Resolution is not print, so if you're doing this for print, make sure that your resolution is nice and high here. But for this demo, I'm going to do it at 72, which is screen resolution, and I'm going to change the color mode to RGB. Obviously, if you're doing it for print, you do it in CMYK. We'll cover more of this stuff later. You don't really need to go into the advanced section unless you're proficient, or unless you want to change your color profile or your pixel aspect ratio for film work. Okay, this will open up this nice sized window. Now as you can see, you can drag this window by the corner like you can with any window in Windows. You can also move this, but it'll only move within the area. So if I've got this at full screen up here, then it will fill it up. But you can take these little tabs and you can take them off. So if you've got a dual monitor set up, you might want to move all the tabs onto the other monitor, which is a good thing to do because it means you've got bigger space here. So that's a handy little tip. Obviously I can't do that because I've got to demo all this to you in this small little box that I've got. But that's good. Right, you can see over here, this is the layers. If you haven't got this turned off, I'm just going to close it. You go to Window and you go down here to Layers, or press F7. You'll see that in the layers you've got a little eye icon which you can't turn off because this is a background layer. Now the problem with background layers is it doesn't really allow you to, well, you can put colours on there and stuff, but it doesn't allow you to get a nice clear background. So you can do that by changing this, double clicking on background and then just calling it BKG, and then that's your background. So I never deal with that as a base background, I always change it. This gives me the option of changing things and using it as a base for everything, but not being restricted by not being able to turn the transparency off or the eye symbol off. So that's good. Let's have a look at these tools now. Right, I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to come up here so that I can adjust things over the top. If you think of Photoshop, it's like sheets of tracing paper over the top of each other. Every time you create a new layer, if you put something in it, it will be like a piece of tracing paper over the top. So to create a new layer, we can come up here and go New Layer, or Shift Control N, or you can come down here and create a new layer there, and that's a new layer which you can double click and you can name it. So I'll call this Object 1. Okay, now you have to make sure that you've selected the layer that you want to draw on. For instance, if I go and grab my pen tool and do this, that is now on the background layer, which I don't want. So I want to get rid of that. I want it on this layer. So here we go. So I'll draw something in here. Just a funny little shape. Okay, and now that is applied to that layer. And also, you can do lots of changes, but let me now work through the tool block with this layer. Okay, let's come up to the first one. This is the move. It basically allows you to move your objects around depending on which layer you're on. This is a selection tool, and allows you to select a square. If you hold the shift, it will constrain it to a square. If you don't, you can change it anyway. And basically these selections are for cutting out areas, filling areas. If I go here, create that, and then I just use the fill tool, drop that in there, you can see what happens. But also I could take this and I could cut a slice out. So I've selected that tool and then I've just hit the backspace or delete, and it's deleted that part out. Or of course I could delete it all out, which I'm going to do. So that's that. In here you've got other options. You can also create an ellipse marquee tool, which again you can do this, hold to shift key down to constrain it to a circle. We'll get onto this top part in a minute. There was a reason that I threw an error up there. It was because my feathering was too high with this document, which we'll get into in a minute. Oh, whatever, we'll get into it now. I'll show it to you now. Right, if I take this block here and then I fill it with a black and then I deselect, so you can go to select, deselect there, or control D. Now if I click the circle again, or any of the other tools, and I go up here, if you look at feather, it's set to 0. But I can set that to something. Zero setting does this. Backspace. Let's look at this. Nice and crisp. However, if I undo that move, go back up here, deselect again, go up here, and now I change my feather to 20. And now I delete. Do you notice? It's feathered the background out. I'm turning the background layer so you can see what's happening, because you might think it's putting a fill colour in. It's not. It's actually taking away the object colour, the front object colour. So you can get some really good effects, lighting effects and stuff, using the feathering. And feathering is used on these tools, the common selection tools, and also these tools, which are the polygon selection tools. Now this one here, this allows you to draw details around things or in a straight line. So I can click once, then you can drag this out, click again, drag this out, click again, drag this out, and then finally you can meet up. When you see it form an O, it means it's looped, or you can click there and double click and it will link it up like that. So I'll deselect that. Of course, watch your feathering. If you start to draw a complicated shape all the way around the outside and it's taking you hours to draw around,